Hello and welcome to Grouchy Geeks episode 64. My name's Steve, my co-host is Scott.
Hello.
This is the last episode of 2021. And what an interesting year it's been, Scott.
Yes, and this is our second take for recording this intro for reasons that we can never talk about.
In mystery.
But we both found very funny, so
Yeah.
that was worthwhile.
Okay.
We enjoyed it, even if nobody else is going to enjoy it.
So, what news, Scott?
So I've got one interesting piece of news. I think I sent you on WhatsApp a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
Which is basically it's almost like Denis Villeneuve is following me around with a notebook on things that he wants to do, because he did the sequel to Blade Runner, which I didn't think needed a sequel, but was brilliant, and he did fantastically. He did Dune, which we've spent most of the last 6 months talking about on this show.
Basically, yeah.
And now it looks like an upcoming project is one of my favorite books, sci-fi books of all time, is Arthur C. Clarke's Rendezvous with Rama.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the guy, not only is he a brilliant director, but he's just, he has, to me, impeccable taste in the things that he's doing next. Just incredible. So, just so excited for it. And what an incredible set of things, right? Doing Blade Runner, then Dune, then Rendezvous with Rama. Yeah. Just extraordinary.
So here's something. Do you know who owns the rights to Rendezvous with Rama and all of the other stuff?
That's apparently not, because you would have never said that unless there was an interesting story behind it.
So it turns out there's a very famous A-list Hollywood actor who's been a huge fan of this work before, and in particular Rama. And for years, he has been attempting to produce a film based upon the same material, to the point where he and his partner, Laurie McCreary, own the rights, and they're now on the production team because they previously owned the rights. And the famous actor is Morgan Freeman.
Wow.
Yeah. So according to, I'd heard about it and I double checked on it. So in the early 2000s, he tried to make a film and it got caught in production hell. And then as recently as when the news came out and you posted something, Morgan Freeman posted something about this on Instagram saying, "I'm so great. I'm so happy this is going ahead. I'm so glad we acquired the rights back then when we did. Now I'm involved in the production side of this." So he's a massive sci-fi fan and a fan as well of this, so which is really interesting.
Wow, incredible!
Clark. Yeah.
So he's probably, with all due respect to Morgan Freeman, he's probably a bit on the old side to actually be one of the people that goes on the space mission to Rama.
Yes,
but you can imagine him being like a senior NASA person that's running it from back on Earth and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, well, we don't know.
He might just be behind the scenes on the production side, sort of, just that he's overseeing it as an executive producer, but obviously loves the work. And someone like Denis Villeneuve is exactly the right person, given what he's done with Dune, I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, incredible.
So the only bit of news I got, it kind of depends on whether or not you've seen it. Have you watched Squid Game and are you aware of it?
I'm aware of Squid Game. I've not watched it, but it's impossible. It's impossible not to be aware of Squid Game, right? I don't even know how I know so much about it, but I know. I pretty much know the beginning, middle, and end of it through no effort of my own.
Yep.
And not having seen it, but I just sort of, yes, I'm familiar with it. but I don't. How is a complete mystery to me.
Well, this isn't a spoiler, but it is, essentially a lethal version of Takeshi's Castle. That's basically what it is. Which, it's great. I enjoyed it. It was brilliant. So now the creator is in talks with Netflix over season 2 and season 3. And I'm thinking, is this one of these things where they're just going to go to the well once too often? Like, it's a great idea, but then it's one of these things of, turn the handle, do another one. If there was a plan in place from the start, great. My gut tells me there wasn't. Oh, it's a 5-year plan. Nope. As far as the story goes, this was the creator's sort of last attempt. He tried so many other things and they failed, and this was a desperate thing, and he was working on his old laptop and all those kind of stories that have come out about the creator, who's now done really well. But my fear is, are they just going to milk this to death? And it'll be like Squid Game Series 77.
From what I understand, and like I say, I've not seen it, but from what I understand, doesn't it kind of have an open ending where the protagonist is kind of going out into the world and trying to do things with his prize money or something like that?
Well, I don't want to spoil it, but there is an ending, and then they sort of put a little hook on something else. And I looked at it and thought, yeah, I guess, but it's just one of these things that I think they could just, the bulk of the series will be familiar to those who've seen the first season, and then they'll put another hook on the end and at the beginning, and then that'll try to carry you through to the next one. I just wish if they said, right, series 1 is brilliant, smash it, do another one, he'd then sat down and gone, here's the arc of the next X number of seasons. And then when you get to that point, that's what we're working to. That's the end. And my gut tells me they've gone, brilliant, do another one. Yeah, we'll do this next season. If it's not, we'll do that. Great. And they've off and running. It's one of these things where, strike while the iron's hot. But as ever, it's money over art, if I can say that,
And that's one of the things about Netflix, isn't it? That they're very data driven in the sense that, they'll keep doing what's working and they'll drop like a hot potato anything that looks, as soon as something isn't doing well for them, they just seem to drop it. But yeah, interesting. You don't want it to go for so long that it ruins all the good stuff that it did at the beginning, right?
It's like Walking Dead. I've said this before. It just gets the cycle of, oh, look, they've brought in a bunch of new characters and they've killed off some of the old characters. Gee, I wonder what's going to happen next season. And it's just rinse and repeat. And you're like, you're not progressing. It's not changing. And given the nature of Squid Game, it can't really evolve because it's set within an artificial environment. So I don't know. I will watch the second season, but I'm hoping if it's just more of the same, I'll just check out after that. I'm getting less tolerant for things where they're just making it for the money. So, we'll see.
And now things have to be great right at the beginning, right? I'm sure we've talked about this before, but the number of times I've said to people, no, Star Trek The Next Generation is really, really good. You just need to stick with it for the first 4 years of the show. Yeah. And it really starts to come into its own. Nowadays, 20 minutes into the first episode, if you're not hooked, then that's it. There's too much stuff out there that's willing to occupy my time. Nowadays, you just,
It's another show. It's all right. I'll go to a different platform, a different streaming service, and there's so many, and there's so much content that we say this all the time. We're living in a golden age of TV and content, unlike anything we've ever seen before. The sheer volume is ridiculous.
I mean, unless you've got more news, that seems like a perfect segue into our main feature.
I think so. Let's go on to our main feature.
Okay. Hello, welcome back. So typically at this time of year, podcasts and YouTube videos, we will do a review of the year. But given that, entertainment-wise, not a whole lot has gone on, we decided to do a review not of the year, but to actually look back and look for a particularly, for us as individuals, a golden year for TV and a golden year for movies, and talk about what came out in that year and what we loved about it, and how cool that year was, basically. And we haven't conferred at all. So we may or may not have the same year. There's a possibility that we do, but it's going to be as much a surprise for us as it will be for everybody else.
Yes, yeah. So I've picked two, and I'm not. I think one of ours might be the same,
right?
But we'll see. We'll see.
So this was an interesting exercise because I know we've said many times on the show that, well, like you just said, in the news section, that we're in a golden age of TV and movies where there's just so much good stuff out there. And, back in the day, we were so starved of things that we would have watched everything that came out, everything that was on. But in researching this, I've come up with a year where it would have been impossible to watch all this stuff in a single year. And it probably took me decades to catch up with all this stuff. And the more that I've looked at it, the more that I'm convinced I've just found the best year that there is.
Wow, okay. Oh. Well, go on then. Do you want to start us off? You've teased. What's your first golden year of entertainment?
Okay, so I'm going to go with, and it'll be interesting whether you think this or not, 1984.
Okay, it's not one of the ones I picked. Okay.
Brilliant.
Interesting.
That's amazing.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So, where are we going to start? I've got such a ridiculous
Start
list
with
of
TV.
stuff here.
Start with TV. What was golden in 84?
Okay, so in terms of new shows that began in 1980, I've broken it down into two.
Okay.
Shows that were continuing in 1984, so you could watch new episodes of them, but it wasn't the season one in 1984, and actually brand new shows in 1984. So brand new shows in 1984 were Blue Thunder.
Yeah,
the drama about helicopter. Airwolf.
Another helicopter.
Yeah. The Master, which starred Lee Van Cleef as a ninja.
I never saw that.
Training people. I loved it as a kid. Mickey Spillane's Mike Hammer.
Yep.
Highway to Heaven.
That's the Angel one, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Miami Vice.
Yes, John.
The Transformers cartoon.
Of course.
The Cosby Show, which I know, the main character.
Yeah, but back then...
it was brilliant.
Yep.
Murder, She Wrote.
Yes.
V.
Oh, yes.
And Crazy Like a Fox, which is another detective thing that I love that probably is a bit more obscure.
I haven't seen that, no.
But that's just the brand new shows in that year.
Wow.
Which is an incredible list. Do you want to tell me the continuing shows?
Go on.
Okay. Automan.
Yes.
Which is Desi Arnaz from the I Love Lucy show. His son plays a computer programmer in the police department that invents like a Tron-like character, and they go out and solve crimes together.
Of course.
Whiz Kids, which is again about a bunch of teenage computer hackers.
Right.
Scarecrow and Mrs. King with Bruce Boxleitner. The Dungeons and Dragons cartoon.
Yes.
The Inspector Gadget cartoon, the He-Man cartoon, the A-Team, Fraggle Rock, St. Elsewhere, Remington Steele, which is probably the show that got Pierce Brosnan his role as James Bond, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Of course.
Knight Rider.
Yep.
Mork and Mindy. Bring 'Em Back Alive.
That a Western
which is one
thing?
of these. No, it was like an Indiana Jones type thing.
Oh.
Tales of the Golden Monkey.
Yeah, Barry loves
which
that.
Barry talks about all the time.
Yeah.
Cagney and Lacey.
Excellent.
TJ Hooker with William Shatner himself.
Shatner.
Police Squad.
As in...
which is Leslie Nielsen.
Yes, Nielsen, yes.
Yeah. Fame.
Oh, wow.
Simon and Simon. The Fall Guy.
Yes.
Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
Okay.
Danger Mouse. This is a wild card. The Krypton Factor, which you'll only know if you're over a certain age.
I did watch English. It. Yes.
Hill Street Blues.
Yes.
And Magnum.
Wow.
What what a stunning list, wait.
Mm.
And if that came out in a year like now, I'd be going, this is just too much. I just can't keep up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm certain that I didn't watch all of those shows in 1984.
No.
But over the following 10 years, I definitely saw all of them.
You've been able to slowly catch up, yes, on repeats. Because that's the thing. We didn't have nearly as much stuff back then. So what they would do, they didn't have half as many channels. Once they've made it, they'd repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, bar a few exceptions. Like we've said this, when they first, just in the UK, when they first started showing things like Star Trek The Next Generation in the 80s, if you didn't watch it when it was on and you didn't record it with your video cassette player, you didn't get to watch it again.
Yeah.
That was it. It was years. And if you missed an episode and it was a part 2 of something or a part 1 of, and you didn't get to see, that was it. You just didn't get it. But some shows were always on and were always repeated. And now everything's repeated. But back then, didn't happen. Just didn't happen.
Which is why I think back then that we had these, every episode, they finished the episode in exactly the same state that they began the episode.
Yeah.
They had an amazing adventure in between.
Yep.
And then they hit the reset switch and it was back to normal. So they could do another completely independent episode. There was no way that you could do a show where the next episode was so completely dependent upon the previous episode that we have now. It would just be impossible, because all it takes is for somebody to have a doctor's appointment or birthday party to go to, and then that's it. The show is dead to you. There's no way that you're ever going to be able to catch up.
No. These days, you have both types of storytelling, but the more connected episodes and series by series with big bads and arcs are much more common. But back then, that was just a totally different world.
What an incredible year! There's so many things that I was obsessed with as a kid, and I'm rewatching now. So I'm actually going through the process of rewatching at the moment. Magnum,
yep,
the A-Team. And the A-Team. I think that's probably all that's in that list that I'm rewatching at the moment. But it's freaking me out because season 1 of Magnum has a completely different theme tune to the one that you are thinking of at the moment.
Yeah,
season 1 of Magnum has a totally different theme tune.
Wow. Okay, that's freaky. That is blowing my mind.
Yeah,
I've got to look that up afterwards now. How very weird. Okay, right. Are you ready for one of my golden years?
Yep.
Okay. So this is a bit later. I've got two actually. But let me just pull this up. Here we go. So the year is 1999.
Wow.
Okay. So in terms of TV shows.
Oh, but wait. I'll just that's so late. I want to kind of throw a few out there. That's after Babylon 5, isn't it? Finished?
It is, yes. For once, we're not talking about Babylon 5.
Is that so the X-Files was on then?
Yes.
Space Above and Beyond?
Space Above and Beyond, that's a good question. No, because Space Above and Beyond was only one season.
Right.
23 episodes, and that was 95 to 96.
Oh,
that's why it didn't come. I was thinking, did it not come up in my search? But no, it was that was 95 to 96.
Oh, okay. That's my best guess. At least I got the X-Files, but that existed from 1985 to 2015, pretty much. So.
Pretty much, yeah. But it was running.
Was an easy guess
at that period. Okay, so here's the TV shows that were running at that time. Actually, hang on. This one must have been running at the same time as well. Yeah, it was. I don't know why that didn't come up. Okay, so I've got some weird gaps. There'll be more than I've put on my list. But anyway, so in 1999, this is new and ongoing. Mm-hmm. So we had Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
I would never
started in 97, so it was on about season 3 at that point. So season 3, then it kicked off in 99. We had Angel, of course.
Wow,
the overlap of the show, and that was when it all started. So suddenly you've gone from this very kind of kooky and cuddly and a little bit softer show. I mean, Buffy got darker in the later seasons, it really did. But Angel started. And it was straight away. I'm spoiling something that's 20 years old. So if you haven't seen it, sorry. But like the first episode, he fails. He fails to save the girl. It goes wrong and she dies and he messes up. And that set the tone for the show. It was like, whoa, everything we've seen in Buffy, but it's a lot more serious and it's darker. And he's not just in a cuddly little made-up town of Sunnydale. It's like, no, he's in Los Angeles, and it's a huge city, and people can get lost.
So I knew that they ran concurrently because he had crossover episodes, which was brilliant.
Yes.
But I don't think I've fully appreciated until now, and maybe I'm completely wrong, but if Angel started during season 3 of Buffy, does that mean that
season 3, he leaves and walks out?
I was going to say, does that mean that Angel started and finished during the run of Buffy? Because Angel wasn't as long as Buffy, was it?
Angel was 5 seasons.
Okay, so it lasted a little bit longer than the end of Buffy.
So Angel was 99 to 2004.
Right.
Buffy was 97 to 2003.
Right.
So Angel ran a little bit later.
Okay.
But yes, it was 5 seasons. But it was darker, it was more adult, it was a lot more going on. And of course, remember, this is this is before Firefly, at least the start of the run of Angel in 99. Firefly was like 2003, I think, 2004. So it's a few years later. Anyway, so other shows as well. The West Wing.
Yeah.
Is in the middle of its run. Farscape.
Wow, incredible. Yeah.
You know, it did start off kooky and weird and a bit kind of, what's this, Muppets in space? And it just felt a bit weird and it felt a bit silly. But then as it developed, it got darker and it brought a different feel to a sci-fi show that we hadn't seen in a long time. And I really, I grew to love it. You've mentioned the X-Files, but also running in 1999, this was in the middle of its run, was?
A Millennium.
Correct. Millennium. Which
was better than the X-Files, right?
It remains one of my favorite TV shows with Lance Henriksen, and there are times that it was better. I mean, we've said this before, like when Joss Whedon put out Firefly, it was like he'd taken everything he'd learned from Buffy and Angel and he condensed it down and he boiled it down into, the best parts, so that from that first episode of Firefly, I was in. Like we said, other things, 4 seasons, and it gets great. No, with Firefly, episode 1, even though the 2-part pilot, and in America it got showed out of order and it messed them up and it caused lots of problems. For us, we had it. And from the first scene, the comedy, the characters, everything was spot on. They didn't suddenly go, you'll get rid of that character and bring someone else in. And, that was all done before. So when it started, it was on point. And I feel that Chris Carter had some of that with Millennium, because he learned over the course of doing X-Files how to produce a TV show, how to do characters, how to develop it for television in a way that, we hadn't seen before. So that when Millennium started, it was so much darker. And it was unlike anything people had seen on TV before. And it was so just unique that people are still talking about it, 20 years on now. And he eventually, Millennium finished, but then Frank Black and Lance Henriksen crossed over into an episode of The X-Files years later. It wasn't exactly to tie things off, but he did sort of appear. They had a 2-parter with The X-Files and an episode of Millennium, I think. So that was quite good. Another show that was on air a bit closer to home in 1999, which kicked off the career of some very famous people now, was Spaced with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. It was the same year. Which is
that was Edgar Wright's baby as well, wasn't it? I think
Edgar Wright, Nina, and Simon Pegg, and think of all the people who've come out of that now, comedy, and how big Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are now. So here are some of the films that year, 1999. Ready? The Mummy, starring Brendan Fraser. Blair Witch Project.
Yeah.
Sixth Sense. Fight Club. Dogma, Galaxy Quest, and probably one of the best films ever still for me that I've seen at the cinema, The Matrix.
Wow, yeah. And timely, because we've now got a 4th Matrix movie.
Which apparently they've already kind of said, we do another one. And the creator, Lana, said, no, this was it. This was like, this brings things together. This is what I've heard there again through osmosis. I haven't seen the film. What people have said about the new one is, the first half feels like a retread and it just like a remake.
Yeah.
And then the second half blows people's minds. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, that it's sort of worth staying for the second half to do something else with it. But I still remember this, even though it is now 20 years ago. I went more than 20 years. I went to cinema with my friend. We didn't know much about it back then. But I think we'd seen a trailer, saw Keanu Reeves' name, thought, oh, looks cool. I went and saw it with my friend, and we came out and we stood in the car park for 10 minutes after, just staring at each other, going, what? Just like, what did we just see? We just couldn't, we were trying to get our heads around it. It absolutely blew our mind. Hard to explain to people now that certain films, when you saw them when they first came out, just changed everything. And this is one, they invented bullet time. They invented so much other stuff in the film that it was unbelievable.
So I had exactly the same reaction that I went to, and this seemed like it would be impossible nowadays, but I went to go and see it knowing literally nothing about it at all. I think it was something that I just got dragged along to, essentially.
Yeah.
And it blew my mind. And the other thing that I knew about it, or the other thing that I remember about it, was before the film started, that was the first time I saw the trailer for the new Star Wars film, The Phantom Menace.
Yeah, which was the same year.
That maybe didn't end up as positively as I was hoping. But still at that point, there was all the excitement that there was going to be a new Star Wars film directed by George Lucas.
Yep.
And whatever you think about the film, the trailer was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so, I remember, the film and that trailer had such an impact on me. More than any other film I can ever remember. I remember specifically where in the cinema I was sitting. Because I just got so blown away by that whole experience. Yeah. And it was, that first Matrix film was absolutely brilliant. Like you say, it wasn't just a great story, good actors, all that compelling stuff, but visually, it felt like something that you'd never seen before.
It was groundbreaking cinema. It really was at the time.
I mean, it was visually something you'd never seen before. You were going to see it in almost every other film for the next 10 years. It was that good.
Yeah.
But it was such an incredible start.
Yeah.
Just brilliant.
So, 1999, what a year. What a year of stuff. Okay, have you got another one?
Yeah, but I'm going to move on to movies now.
Okay. But
maintaining my argument that 1984 was the best year ever.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a list of movies here, and I'm going to have to truncate the list because it's 41 movies long.
Okay.
And I'm going to argue that every single one of these, I'm not going to argue that every single one is great, but every single one is at least memorable.
All right.
But I'm not going to go through the whole list. Sure. Starting off, the original David Lynch version of Dune. And we know that the Denis Villeneuve one has surpassed it.
Yes.
But I still have a soft spot for that original one.
Yeah, fair enough.
Ghostbusters.
Yes.
Gremlins.
Yes.
The Terminator.
Amazing.
Karate Kid.
Yes. Yeah, fair.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Mm-hmm.
Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Yep.
And this, you're not going to share this, but very specific to me, the Molly Ringwald film, 16 Candles, came out.
16 Candles, yep, okay, right. No particular reason Scott's list.
Beverly Hills Cop.
Excellent.
One of your favourite movies, I know, Footloose.
Yep, still never seen it. I know the entire story, never seen it. Go
on. Conan the Destroyer.
Excellent.
The Last Starfighter.
Good.
The sequel to 2001: The Space Odyssey, 2010. Buckaroo Banzai.
Yep.
A favourite film of mine that very few people have seen, which is Runaway, which is a story in a script by Michael Crichton, starring Tom Selleck.
Runaway. I think I've seen this.
It's about robots that just go rogue. It's a really good film.
No, I haven't seen that.
Okay.
Go on.
Muppets Take Manhattan.
Of course.
Dreamscape.
Yes.
The Philadelphia Experiment.
Yeah, it's the time travel one with the ship and stuff, isn't it? They get caught in like a Bermuda Triangle thing or something.
And Nightmare on Elm Street. So that was a truncated list, but what a stellar list. I'm sure you didn't agree with everything that I put there, but even the ones that you did agree with, that's a quality year for movies. It is
an excellent year. Yeah. Well, I've got another year of TV and film, but have you got a second year as well?
No, I just went for 19. I just
you put all your chips in.
I got to 1984, and I was like, "There's no point in continuing.
There's no point continuing this experiment. No. I'm done." Okay, all right. Okay, so my second golden year again is slightly more recent again, and this is 2001.
Interesting. I can't think other than Attack of the Clones. I'm not sure.
That's not on my list, but okay. So, in terms of TV shows, so there's a mixed bag. I won't deny it. However, the seeds were planted in this year for things that we're still watching this year that owe a debt to what came out in that year.
Interesting.
So the first show is Smallville, came out in 2001.
Yeah.
And you think about how big the kind of scope of shows that we've watched over the last 10, 12 years, I'd say, going back to Green Arrow, Flash, Legends, Black Lightning, Supergirl, Superman and Lois, all of the Marvel TV shows that have come, they all owe a massive debt to Smallville. You know, it's 20 years, and Tom Welling and all Michael Rosbaum, the whole lot. They were the kind of the prototype. It did perhaps run a bit long, and it did get a bit formulaic at times and go up and down, but the stuff that they set up there was just brilliant, and there's some cracking episodes, and they did things that now we kind of go, oh yeah, like it's not a spoiler again, having alternate versions of characters like the Spider-Man films where, you know, the animated one, there's different Spider-Mans turn up and stuff. They're telling different stories. In this, we had Lex Luthor and Clark Kent grew up together, sort of, and they were best friends. And everyone at the beginning was like, oh, no, that's not canon. It doesn't work. And then you sort of think, okay, maybe it's just another version. And it was an interesting experiment to tell stories that they hadn't done in the comics that way for the last 40 years. And so that was really, really cool. I enjoyed that. And
so I watched Smallville at the time.
Yeah.
But every single memory that I have of Smallville is completely eclipsed by Barry and Dave talking about Smallville on Geek Syndicate.
Their rants. They're like, why am I still watching it? I don't know. I'm enjoying it, but I don't know. It's something we've got. Let's just keep watching it.
If you say Smallville to me, the vision that comes into my head isn't of the show itself. It's of Barry and Dave's voices talking about the show. Yeah. And that's completely overwhelmed. I mean, I'm not complaining because I enjoyed listening to them talking about it than I ever recall enjoying the show.
Their rants were cracking.
So from that point of view, I'm at least grateful to Smallville for giving Barry and Dave great content.
True. Okay, some other cracking shows. Alias, which
brilliant,
in essence launched Jennifer Garner's career. Spectacular TV show. So good. Some brilliant stuff. It also launched J.J. Abrams' career, although to be fair, he had worked on Felicity before this, but this basically blew him to the stratosphere and turned him into the kind of bad robot machine that he became later on. 6 Feet Under doesn't get enough.
Amazing.
They're now talking about some kind of continuation or spin-off series or reboots of that. 24 with Kiefer Sutherland.
Absolutely loved it.
So for those who've never seen it, this is the other thing as well. This was unprecedented on television. A show that took place in real time. So every 45 minutes of the show or whatever it was had a clock, and there was 45 minutes of real time in the actual world within the show. And it was 24 episodes to try and be 24 hours. Brilliant. It was absolutely groundbreaking TV again. We'd never seen anything like it. It was addictive. It was one of these things where you tuned in You knew what was if it's a Friday night, whenever it was, you sat down and you watched 24 because everybody was talking about it. It's one of these things you just had to watch in the moment.
I can tell you something about 24 that I think I've never told you.
Go on.
Actually, come to think of it,
were you in 24? Is that what you're going to tell me?
No.
Oh, okay.
I was Keith Sutherland. No, I loved it so much. When I got the box set of 24 season 1, I watched it in real time. So I watched the whole season over a 24-hour period.
Wow. That is dedication to the show. Wow.
And I'll be honest, sort of towards the end, I was beginning to wish that I hadn't set myself this goal. But yeah, I have watched 24 in over the course of the day that it was set in. I'm
amazed it doesn't come up more in conversation then. I didn't realize that you were that loyal and dedicated fan. Wow, you probably got some stats to me.
I love season 1. I love season 2. I think it went downhill after that. I can't quite remember. Was it season 3 where he becomes like a drug addict and he dies and then gets better?
Oh, I think that's like season 5 or something.
Okay.
I think it was good for about the first 4 seasons, and then it kind of hit the rocks and went a bit weird and stuff. But
I can tell you a character in 24 that I really, really like, but I know that you're going to hate.
I can't stand her. I can't stand her.
How do you know who I'm going to talk about?
Because I know who you're going to talk about.
The fact that you got the gender right without us even mentioning the name.
What? Say her name.
Chloe.
I hate her. I hate her so much. She was with claw every time on screen. It's like nails on a chalkboard. She's just so annoying. She's always saying, no, but Jack. No, but Jack's like, shut up.
I would happily watch a spin-off series with her in it and not Kiefer Sutherland.
Oh God, I can't. I just every time she turns up on screen now, it just makes me. She has default resting bitch face. That's her natural expression, the actress, and it just makes me want to turn off the telly whenever she's.
But she must have been a popular character then, because they sort of made her role unrealistically prominent towards the end, didn't they? I think.
Yeah, and she kept coming back in like season 4 and season 5, and then she got off and had a baby, and then she came back, and yet still, despite having not been in a loop for years, she was the best with the technology. And I'm like, okay, sure. And as Barry always said, watching 24, I'm just going to retask the satellite. There we go. Now it's overhead. Like, you retask the satellite in about 30 seconds from where it was to. Right, just go with it. I'm not going to pick it. Anyway. Other TV shows in 2001, Star Trek Enterprise.
Wow, yeah, loved it.
Which was, I think that was the first year. I'm just going to double check. But I think that was the first year it began. And we hadn't had a Star Trek show since the end of Voyager.
Yeah, I think you could be right.
Yeah, it started in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, Star Trek Voyager ended, and then we were without a show for quite a few years. 2001 actually. Yeah, sorry. Voyager ended 2001, and this began 2001. So yeah, it was quite a departure. Everyone was expecting to go forward, and then suddenly we go back, which kind of freaked people out. But there you go.
I liked it, and I thought they did well with it.
I did.
And another thing that I think is probably going to annoy you, I really like the theme tune to it.
I don't mind it.
Okay.
I think they changed it as well. I remember they kind of toned down the Russell Watson opera.
Yeah, I think you're right.
The first episode, everyone was like, "What is this?" And then after the first episodes, they toned it a little bit softer, and that was fine. But no, I liked it. Yeah. I especially liked some of the actresses in that show. Anyway, Scrubs was also on in 2001.
Another brilliant show.
Here are some of the films that year that just brilliant. So, A Beautiful Mind.
Yep.
Ron Howard and
Russell Crowe.
Absolutely. Donnie Darko with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Wow, that's a movie. I'm going to sound like Obi-Wan Kenobi now, but that's a name that I've not heard in a long time.
Yeah,
because it was huge at the time, didn't it? But it just completely gone off the radar. Now. There was a sequel to it which was abysmal.
Yes. Yeah, it's one of these things where, oh, it's brilliant, do another one. You shouldn't have done another one.
No.
Other films that year, Black Hawk Down.
Brilliant. Ridley Scott directed it, I think.
I think so. A Knight's Tale, which of course had many famous actors in,
including Heath Ledger.
Yes, one of his big roles before he really blew up.
So I'm familiar with it, but I've never seen it.
Okay, it's kind of comedy.
Yeah. So the trailer, they sort of have the trailer obviously during, it's set during medieval times.
Yeah.
But it's overlaid with I think Queen music. We Will Rock You.
It's in the film.
I found that so jarring that I just never got around to watching it. I'd watch it quite happily now.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't, it just doesn't come up these
It's not
days.
really a period piece, let's just say that, with modern music and foam fingers and chanting Queen songs and stuff like that. Anyway, other films, Training Day, which...
Wow, yeah.
Denzel Washington
and I can't remember
Ethan Hawke.
Yeah.
And they won all sorts of awards for that.
He got Denzel Washington got the Oscar for it, didn't he?
Yeah. Shrek, Monsters, Inc., and here are the two I've saved, the biggest ones, really. Planet of the Apes, the good ones.
The Tim Burton Planet of the Apes. No? Yeah.
It was 2001. It must have been.
Yeah, it must have been Tim Burton.
Yeah, sorry. I was thinking it was a good one. It wasn't. It was
no, you were thinking one. You weren't thinking there was no way that was going to be the Charlton Heston, Roddy McDowell.
I wasn't thinking of that one either. Okay. Damn you, dirty apes.
No, you were thinking of the much more recent one.
Yes.
Which is must be Andy less Serkis, than 10 years ago. Yeah.
Planet of the Apes trilogy, which I still haven't seen the third one. Somehow I haven't seen it. Oh, and the best film that year, I would argue, or the biggest film was, of course, Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Rings. Of the Ring. Sorry, for someone corrects me. Actually, I think you'll find it's the Fellowship of the Ring. Thank you, comic book guy. Yeah. I just
now need to delete the strongly worded email.
It's always you. Yeah. Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. So,
I mean, that was my Christmas for 3 years on the trot. Amazing.
It blew everybody away. Mm-hmm. Everybody went in and around Christmas, and Peter Jackson and that cast ruled the box office for 3 years. Yeah. There was nothing else anybody was seeing towards Christmas. Just wasn't worth it. You're wasting your time. And it was brilliant. And they thought, do another one. Do that Hobbit, that 300-page book. Yeah, you can get 3 films out of that. Well,
yeah, I didn't go so well with it.
Well, can you? Can you really get 3 films? But anyway, yes, Lord of the Rings, brilliant. So 2001, so much. There's other stuff I haven't mentioned, and there's tons, but cracking year.
Lord of the Rings is the biggie, definitely.
Yeah. It is the £800 silverback gorilla that year at the box office. It just smashed everything. And this is your long time before your Marvel films and your Avengers 1 billion box office and stuff. Actually, what year did Avatar? Avatar was a lot later, but I'm trying to remember.
That was mid 2000s, 2005, 2006.
Oh, Avatar 1. Oh God, 2009. There we go. Okay. Wow, it's been that long.
I know, and he's somehow James Cameron is sort of simultaneously filming 4 sequels or something ridiculous like that.
Well, I just Googled it and it says Avatar 3 2024, Avatar 4 2026, Avatar 5 2028. I'm like, really? We haven't even got Avatar 2 yet?
It's just gonna string out forever, isn't it? It's never gonna happen.
Avatar 2 2022, apparently.
No way. Absolutely no way.
That's like saying we'll get the final book in, Game of Thrones and
the
other ones next year. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. I don't know. He changed cinema there again, and he changed technology to make that film. But I don't know what he's really been doing since then. Do you?
Just working on Avatar sequels.
For the last 15 years, that's all I've been working on. Avatar.
My favourite thing about James Cameron is that he was obviously, for a time, it looked like 3D was going to really take off in the cinema, and it kind of didn't. But he was one of the big proponents for it.
Yep.
And I remember seeing a documentary that he produced, and the best thing about it was there was an interview with him, I think on like the extras of the DVD or something, and he said the most brilliantly self-aware thing I've seen the director say, I think, where the person interviewing him said, you chose to film this documentary in 3D. Why did you do that? And his response was, I'm James Cameron. I film my child's birthday parties in 3D.
Wow. Okay. Oof. What a guy.
Guy. But he must be, if he's working on this whole set of sequels, this is the thing I seem to do regularly now, which is say they must be getting on. So he's 67 now.
Yep.
So working on a set of 5 sequels simultaneously that are due to finish in his 80s, probably not. Yeah. So he hasn't done. So looking at his filmography, he's done Avatar 2009.
Yes.
Then the rest of his slate is Avatar 2, Avatar 3, Avatar 4, Avatar 5.
Yeah.
And that's, nobody's done that since Lord of the Rings. And Lord of the Rings had the good sense that they filmed all 3 of them simultaneously. So they were in the bag.
Well, according to IMDb, it says 2 and 3 are in post-production. He's filming 4 and 5 at the moment, which, is possible, but it's just that it takes so long to do the post-production. It takes years of real time. That's why the films are coming out every 2 years for the next X number of years. Well, yeah, for the next 8 years. That might be why.
I mean, I loved Avatar. I thought it was brilliant.
It was good. It was really good, yeah.
And I'm wishing him every success. But it is a bit weird, right?
Yeah.
This obsession he seems to have with it.
I don't know. It's just, it's his project for the next forever,
I do love even with the first Avatar, I do love the fact that, he's pitching it to the studio, and it's like, it's a story about, living more simply, and the, corporate greed and the evils of corporate greed, and going back to nature and going back to basics and becoming one with your environment.
Yes.
All I need is $400 million
every year for the next 10 years to make it. There you go, James. Help yourself. Thank you very much for all your money to make my simple little film about how we all come back and live simply with nature. Excellent point, James. Thanks for making that. Could have watched a Ben Fogle New Lives in the Wild documentary that's made for like £500,000, if that. I'm going to guess probably far less, But hey, you do you, James.
Yeah.
You do you. That's what's important. I'm sure he listens to us, so I'm glad.
Yeah.
So those are my 2 golden years, 1999 and 2001, and yours is 1984. There's lots of others, but those are some cracking years.
It was really good to review it because, like I said, and like we've said, that it seems like we're in a golden age now, but we've had these golden ages in the past where, there was just a period where everything came together, and it seemed like, gold was just being made.
We don't have the kind of water cooler conversations that we used to have back in the day because everything's instantaneously online on social media. And I miss that kind of get into the office on a Monday or, and you're just talking about it on the phone with friends. I miss that kind of discussion thing. It's not the same on social media for sure. But anyway, so some cracking years, some really, really good films and TV shows that we've mentioned. And if you've not watched some of them, you should definitely go back and check them out, especially my favorite, Galaxy Quest, with the late, great Alan Rickman.
Never give up.
Never surrender. By the Sons of Warvan. By Grabthar's hammer. And the
you shall be avenged.
You shall be avenged. Yes. Anyway, right, that's it for this evening. We'll be back in 2022. But in the meantime, it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him.
Good night.
Good night.